That question is so loaded, John. I don't even know where to start with that question. I guess the problem is, and by the way, John, I love that question.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. This is an interesting topic.
What's the solution here?
Show up, understand your part, and just crush it.
Pay-per-click, social media, we can talk about all this stuff, but what really matters is patient experience, that wow factor.
Please, are you listening to yourself? Come on.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So sit back, take notes, and listen.
Oh, I love this. This is going to be fun.
Startup Uncensored. The questions you have with the truths you need to hear. And now your hosts, Michael Dinsio and John Bertagni.
All right. This is episode Real Estate Shark Tank. We're getting after it. This is the big week. What we're doing today is we're interviewing one of the biggest powerhouses in Arizona, Colorado, Nevada. These guys get it, and this is Startup Uncensored. Let's get right into this. John, my friend and partner, thanks for being here today. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I don't know if I had a choice of not being here, but I'm glad I'm here. Okay. Well, so no, I'm excited about this. Christian Gile of Gile Real Estate. I mean, come on, it's he and I go way back. I know you do too, and we're just happy to have him on. He's done a great job for me over the years, and he's done a great job for people in all the markets you mentioned. And I'm just happy he's a part of the team here. Christian, how are you, my man?
I'm good, man. It's always great to reconnect with you, homies. Just thinking back when we first met, John, and Colorado. It was back in Colorado.
None of those stories, please.
Yes, we're going there. And I do remember one specific night in downtown Denver after the Rocky Mountain Dental Convention. You don't have any idea who you're dealing with until he breaks out a harmonica in lower downtown Denver, takes the stage, and actually runs the whole bar.
Just starts ripping tunes from.
Do you have the harmonica with you?
I
don't even lie.
I'm fastened to this chair. It's
in your pocket. Is that a harmonica in your pocket?
That's amazing. That's a great story.
No, he's actually really good. So it was they were playing blues that night, and he got up there and everybody's like, "What is Bert doing?" And he gets up there and he starts rocking it. It was really, really sweet. But anyway, moved down to Arizona, and in pursuit of family, sunshine, and opportunity.
By the way, hang on 1 second. Christian, I think you should maybe do a little segment right now, like a 20-second tidbit or 30 seconds of, deeper of why the West, because people are moving out of Chicago. They're moving out of those places because of taxes, whatever the hell else is going on. So really quick,
California. Yeah.
Why the West right now? Boom.
So that's a good question. The answer to your question is, I think that people are looking for kind of like some going back to normalcy. We have 250 people flowing in to Maricopa County on a daily basis, and we're not losing that many right now. It's not like 250 coming in and 250 going out. It's like 250 coming in and 2 or 3 going out. And the reason is because it's that, the politics are still normal here out in the West. People are coming out of Chicago. I hear people are fleeing from New York. They're for sure fleeing out of California because we're seeing more California plates than you can possibly. It's like there's a ton of that going on here. So I think it's politics. I think it's taxes. I think that people just want to get back to what they remember as a normal U.S. And so
and a little bit of sunshine, right? I mean,
that's a whole bunch of sunshine, man.
Yeah.
Tell us about Gile. Let's get right into Gile. Give us a 30-second commercial on Gile. And if anybody knows, Christian, there's no such thing as 30 seconds, but I'm going to challenge you. 30 seconds. Why is Gile the premier commercial real estate broker in the dental space? What gives you guys the success you've gotten?
Well, first, I've been in the business for about 17 years. It's 18 now. We've negotiated a ridiculous tear of business in terms of specifically dental, but dental far and away is our biggest vertical. I think we've done, I've personally negotiated over 1,500 dental related transactions. Wow. And then we have I've got brokers in the office that I've overseen that also handle a ton of negotiations. We're in constant contact with those guys. So we've been there, we've done that. We've got the T-shirt and the coffee mug to go with it. We've seen a lot of different scenarios. So
a lot of deals, a lot of deal flow, and what makes us very different than any other group out in the market here in Arizona is that we only represent one side of the transaction, and that's the doctor side of the transaction. Never landlords or sellers. So there's never that conflict of interest that the other guys never quite mention. It's like the dirty little secret in commercial real estate. You have to be represented. And if a doc calls on a sign and they're like, hey, I just made a phone call that the guy was super nice. Yeah, they're going to be very nice. They're skilled at being nice, but they don't represent the doctor side of the transaction. They represent the landlord. And the other side, the reality of it is that they're trying to get two sides of the transaction. There's the fees designed for two brokers. Yeah. And if only one shows up, which represents the landlord or the seller, they're going to dictate all the deal terms and take two sides of the transaction. So my takeaway there, my man, is obviously, the business, the dirt, and it's integrity based, and you're going to represent our listeners and viewers to the utmost. So, but that's 1, my takeaway. Yeah,
1,000%. I graduated.
By the way, that was more than 30 seconds.
Easily. But Dinsio also mentioned that there's no short answers. So
that's true. I want to go back to your system, because I remember you telling me at one point in time the way that you built out, Gile, and how you did this, and it was really analytics driven. And I think it might have even been some sort of spy stuff you and your brother did, correct? Like you guys pulled some crazy data sets that allows you to really understand concentration and also the availability of space. And, it really was mind blowing what you did, which is, in my mind, I think pretty darn unique.
Yeah, that was pretty. Am
I right, by the way?
Yes, you are. That was pretty skunk works, if you will, like the dark ops kind of stuff. We bought a whole bunch of databases. We had people on the other side of the planet scrubbing that data for 6 months, 24 hours a day. We got a really clean data set. We took those data sets and dumped them into a very big data set. And then my brother-in-law is the number one data scientist in the Army. He's in charge of determining where the next most likely terrorist attack, whether it's cyber or whatever it is. So he was commissioned by these guys to go get his PhD at Stanford. He got that PhD at Stanford, and that allowed us to have the opportunity to go in and work with 100 different data scientists with Stanford, and we got this thing called a hackathon going on. And they said, okay, it's like, all right, here's $500. There's 100 data scientists at Stanford in a room, and I said, I want to know within the next 3 years, an 80% probability of the next doctor who needs to move or to renew their lease, and also where the best locations would be. So we had this, and also, by the way, I wanted to pop up on a Google device, and then go. So my brokers can just literally go start hitting balloons and try to help, because our goal in life is to help as many doctors as possible.
What is going on right now? What?
By the way, yes, this is crazy.
What are you Russian spy stuff? What's going on right now?
So basically
was involved.
So to timestamp this like COVID moment where everybody lost their jobs and the economy's kind of getting going, I want to share something with you guys. I just got this for those that aren't watching on YouTube and are listening audio. I'll share these numbers, but you guys
keep your eyes on the road.
look at this chart. Okay, look at this chart. You see this? If you notice the dates, do you see the curve, right? So the dates are November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and all the way through to today. Yeah. That's new patients. Okay. So this is a startup that literally started up before COVID, and right in the middle of this was COVID. Okay. And I asked them yesterday, I said, what was the single thing that accomplished that? This is a startup. What do you think they said? Location.
Yeah.
Location and referral sources.
Well, and for people that are not watching, it's a steady flow of growth on this chart.
Let me read it off. 2 patients, 9 patients, 25 patients, 45 patients, 69. I mean, it's just blowing up for them. And these are just new patients, of course, because they're starting.
So 69 was March.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yes. So they're growing. They're growing. And so I guess that's the point is if you're positioned well, Christian, and you've got a great location. We've all presented, we've all talked about this. And who's at the helm of that? That's you. That's you and your firm. And so get into that a little bit. Like, what are some of those things that can get people high visibility? You know, we've heard the shopping, we've heard pair yourself up with the Starbucks. We've heard some of these things. What's your take on it? Like, what gets you that exposure?
So in the dental specific commercial real estate world, we target 35,000 cars, north of 35,000 cars. 35,000 cars is good visibility for a dental clinic. It's really good. You get to 50,000 cars, that's savage. I just put, they don't need it. The endodontists, they don't need the visibility, but I had this location that I kept my eye on in Raintree and 101, just right in the heart of Scottsdale. Everybody's like, don't do a startup in Scottsdale. It's already built out and so on and so forth. That's true unless you have a bomb ass location. And so we put him right on the highway, 250,000 cars per day, just like we did with Dr. Corson at Yale and I-25. You remember that, Bert?
Yeah.
He's like, just find me the best location. Yep. I can't share his numbers, but they were ridiculous for the first year. This guy's already starting off with the bang. He's an endo. It's Loop 101 endodontics. It's visible from the interstate. Everybody sees his sign, and he's off to the races. So 35,000 cars is good. 50,000 cars is savage, and 250,000, 250,000 cars seeing it every day is ridiculous. So
by the way, man, I love that you actually shared that data set, because that actually is, data that everyone says, oh, it's cars, number of cars. You actually broke it down to, actually, I haven't heard redonkulous used on this show. So thank you.
Well, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of firsts on this show.
No, that's a fantastic stat. That's a fantastic.
No, I really like that, because that's something that someone can take to the bank, whether it's in Florida or whether it's in the Southwest. And that's what we're trying to do. This is not only about these particular areas. So, I also look, I got one more thing, baby.
So here's the next thing. So you can have visibility, but if you don't have access, you're scrizzled. That's another one for you.
Grizzled.
Yeah. There it is.
So that's interesting, because you're talking about access, and Milad and Kroll, a dentist out of Chicago, talks about parking. Like, that's not as much of a big deal in Arizona, or maybe it is, but so these are the things that we want on the, access, visibility, parking. Like, boom, come on, let's go.
So you have to have the visibility. You have to have the access. If it's not easy, people are going to blow and go. They're not super excited to go about going to the dentist to begin with. You have to be able to get in and out super, super easy. You have to also, one of the other things that you very much want to pay attention to is, so you had access, visibility. You want to make sure you have good signage along the boulevard. Try to locate on Main and Main as much as possible. Again, we're targeting specifically GP, ortho, pedo.
Yeah.
If you can get a sick location for endo, that's fantastic. But you embed those guys differently. You put them with in a hotbed of GPs or referral sources. And that's a different flavor. But you've got to have the parking. The parking, you would think that here in the desert where the sand just goes on forever and ever and ever, that there's not going to be a parking issue. It is the number one issue in Phoenix. You have to be parked at 5 per 1,000 to even get a permit. Little anecdote, we had this one gal that we were working with, and she was like, "Hey, I found a location on my own," and we're like, "Okay, which one is it?" And she told us which one it was, and we're like, "It's not going to work out. That's why we didn't show it to you." Well, she's like, "Well, I'm going to do it anyways." We're like, "Okay." So she gets this location. 8 months later, she's still fighting with the city after having signed a $750,000 lease.
Yeah.
She can't open up because the parking's not there. That's why you have to have an expert.
So that's exactly what I was just going to say. That's why you need someone. And I love stories. People love data, but they also love stories. So we're going to keep on driving things through stories. And you brought up, you're currently in Phoenix, Arizona, or Scottsdale, or where have you. But, when I look at that sprawl, and Colorado's the same way, Nevada's the same way, things just keep on moving outward. And you brought it up, you could actually go back to where there's concentration of dentists. Like you said, Scottsdale, there are still pockets. You don't always have to go, I call it Caterpillar of homes, where there's just rolling hills of homes to build a startup. You could actually build a new startup within. What are your thoughts on that?
It's such a great question. The answer to that question, I've been thinking about this a lot. And then the reality is that the new high ground for dental. So if you're in a built out market, like we're in here in Arizona, like there are so many dentists, you can't even believe it. Go ahead. And it
is crazy down there.
While you're sitting watching this podcast, go onto your Google, hit a search and say dental and look at the Phoenix metro area. You will see so many red balloons pop up everywhere you think that there's not an opportunity. The new high ground in a built out market is superior positioning, where you park in the Main and Main location, you take the best location, and then you just wait for the other guys to start tapping out, and then you buy their patient base, and then you bring them on over. Mm-hmm. It's savage, but that's the reality of this environment.
I like that. So there's a strategy there. That's a great strategy. Hey, Christian, I got a question for you real quick. Sure. I was just working with a startup yesterday, and pedo, so a little different, but specialty. You mentioned it. Specialists needs to be in the heart of a bunch of GPs. Number one, isn't it interesting for the specialties and how they've gone direct now versus so dependent on the GPs? Like that's still obviously there's a referral strategy, and you need to stay on top of your referral sources, and you need to be sending the cookies and the dinners, and you need to do that. But isn't it interesting, specifically for pedos, patients are smarter, moms are smarter. They're looking for the pediatric dentist sign, right? And so they're going direct. So is there a strategy there for specialists? That's question one. And then, I'll just roll with question two, size.
You're going to remind me because I'll forget number two.
That's why I was pausing. But the other thing was size. She wanted to go bigger, 2,500 square feet. But I'm finding that construction costs are a factor where we can't afford the build out because we're going too big. Now I'm all about going bigger because you don't want to limit your growth capacity. But with the construction issues, which is going to be really where we're heading with this podcast next, we can't afford to build out 2,500 square feet. So those are my two things. Sorry, that's a two-part question, but
yeah. So and that's a great question. So you guys on the consultant side are gonna have to figure out how to make those smaller spaces work if we start getting priced out in terms of the build out and so on and so forth. And when you go into a really nice location, obviously the rents are going to be higher. You got to pay to play. There's a reason why they get higher rents in the sassier locations, because they can, and that's why you drink terrible coffee, because it's present and convenient. How much better fantastic dental service in a great location. If you're not going to do it, somebody will. So you might as well jump in there, and then you have to figure out, okay, well, we've got to make the production work, and it will work with the high visibility location, but it's got to be positioned just right. Going back to what you're saying is that, the pricing has gotten absolutely crazy. There's two things that are kind of working against us right now in this environment, is that the pricing has gotten crazy in terms of labor and materials. Those have shot way up in this market, in the Phoenix metro market, in the Arizona market. Costs are right around $135 a square foot to build out a dental space. Used to take 4 months. Now it's taking 6 to 6.5 months to actually get the exact same dental space open, because as crazy as it sounds, and you think that with this downturn, everything's like slow, it could be going faster. It couldn't be hotter right now. The contractors are as busy as they can possibly be. And so getting the subs to stay focused on a project is very difficult right now. So they're calling their numbers in terms of labor, and then the actual cost of the materials has gone way up.
So what do you say? 20, 25, 22, 2,000 square feet is your max? What are you seeing?
Well, so it completely depends on the specialty. If you've got an endo who can operate a pretty bump and practice on 3 to 4 chairs and doesn't need a lab, then you can get into a smaller space. You'd be sub 2,000, and they can still have a phenomenal career. The higher production offices, like if you want to spin it off eventually, like build up a dental practice and then spin it off to corporate, which some people have that strategy, then they're going to be looking for 6 to 8 chairs minimum, because they're thinking that they're going to be able to go in there, be able to do it better than the sole practitioner. So in that case, I think 2,500 square feet is the dental wheelhouse. Let's say, let me restate that. It's about 2,000 to 2,500 square feet, depending on specialty. Pedo, you probably need a little bit more, because you're gonna have the quiet rooms and so on and so forth. Lab, sterile. You're gonna have, obviously it's gonna be open bay concept, but you want to have the parents come back so they can hang out with the kids and make sure that everything is going okay with those little guys. But then you have the GP offices are usually between 5 to 8 chairs. And I think we're getting those things done at right around 2,200 square feet, at least in this market.
So things are taking longer, number one, right? Yeah. So, and then also that option of expansion, and without paying too much for the build out, and I already know the answer to this, but it's, first right of refusal for the space next door or adjacent to you. That's going to be a obvious thing that we want to put in that lease, correct, Christian?
Yes, and I think that not only that, you definitely want to put that in the lease in terms of the expansion, because things are going to pick up significantly later on down the road for a properly positioned, properly guided dental practice. You do want to have that in your lease if you can squeeze it in there for first right of refusal on the adjacent space. The other thing that's very important is that you've got to begin with the end in mind. When you're talking to your architect, you have to talk to them and say, listen, I do plan on expanding in the future. So please build this with the concept that I may take the space over next door, and I don't want some weird growth on my practice in terms of size. You have to design it so that when that space comes available, I can jump on it and still have really good patient flow.
So what that means is, from a architectural standpoint in construction, it might mean that a trunk line goes to an exterior or demising wall that allows you to not ruin your space or have to shut down your space. You could actually be working alongside that space as your construction is going for expansion. Am I correct?
100%. Just like we did with Dr. Corson and Denny.
Exactly.
He took over the space next door, and he needed it sooner than he thought he was going to need it. And we're glad that we pre-designed that back in the day, so that when he expanded into it, it was smooth. The patient flow still worked great. And
Yeah,
he's
that was smart. Those people on that job project were really smart.
Yeah.
The other question I had,
who were they?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But here's here's another piece that I was thinking about. You know, we were talking about how long these projects are taking to come to fruition, and then how that relates to delayed lease payments and how a delayed lease starts in terms of the when you start paying your lease. That's a big piece that is important no matter what time frame we're in. But when there's construction delays and access to product and construction materials, it's even more important. Tell us about how you're negotiating those waters today, and how our listeners should guide their real estate people if they choose to go against everything that we're saying and picking a real estate based healthcare provider. If they say, I'm using my brother or my buddy, and they give them a pearl to guide those waters. God darn it.
Buddy.
I always tell my clients, it's like, yeah, you can use your buddy who's an architect but doesn't know anything about dental, and you can use your buddy who's a commercial or a residential broker, doesn't know anything about commercial real estate. It's only going to cost you about $150,000. You'll spend the rest of your career paying for that. But go ahead, it's completely up to you. But it does make conversations at Thanksgiving super awkward. So, no, you definitely need to have the right people in place in order to do it. Yeah, I don't know how else to say it. You gotta have the right folks who know what they're doing to help you on down the road.
Yeah, and I mean, from this standpoint, it's about landlords are willing to work with the dentist. This is not an adversarial situation all the time. It's how you approach that situation.
Well, they want you to be successful. And going back to your question is, we try to get as much free rent as possible for it. It's not always possible, but majority of the time we get free rent for them to do their build out, which is, it used to be, like I said, 4 months now, then it turned into 5 months. Now it's 6 months. So we build that in so that the rent doesn't even start. You don't want to be paying rent on a space you can't produce out of. And neither does the bank want you to do that. So it's really tough on the pocketbook. So you want to make sure that once you open your doors for business, you haven't been paying rent during your build out, which is like 6 months. And you also want to be able to have some free rent once you open your doors for business, so you can start collecting on your accounts receivables and so on and so forth, and not have to deal with that. So you need a delay from the bank in terms of when you actually get you have to start paying on your loan. The banks know that, the good dental lenders know that. By the way, stick with the bigger ones, because the smaller ones have their project management in terms of the banks end up being a dumpster fire, because they don't understand dental. They don't know what needs to happen. But you get that delay in the payment on the banking side. You get that delay in payment on the real estate side. You get your foundation underneath you as a dental provider, and then you never look back. But you definitely have to have that available. And going back to your question too, very astute question, is that during COVID, we need to also say that we can have a little bit more of a delay, and we've been doing this with our leases as well. If something comes up, they used to call it acts of God, but we can't be blaming God for what's going on. It's the force majeure is what they call it now. If force majeure, i.e. some sort of weather thing that slows production, or God forbid another virus comes through, got to have some sort of delay in place so that you're not burning time on something that you have no control over.
I love that. I love the force majeure clause. That's a takeaway, John, for the folks that don't understand dental. Couple things. Back to the free rent discussion. I talk about these levers that you can pull with the landlord. Like there's some big levers that you pull: free rent, TI allowance, the base rent. All of these things are levers, right? And I like to say, if you pull hard on two of them, the one's going to go back up, right? Because the landlords, it's got to be a win-win. You can't pull all three down. Hey, that's not going to happen. And so
fair exchange.
It's a fair exchange. And what's interesting, Christian and John, you guys have both been a part of so many deals. Each deal has its own nuances of what it needs. This guy might get 700 grand from the bank and have a ton of money in the checking account, right? Personal checking account. So maybe we don't need TI allowances, so that lever goes up, but then we pull these two levers really hard. Can you talk about some of these levers? Because it's, when I talk to my clients, it's like, no, dude, you don't get all of this. Like it's a lever. It's a lever system. So tell me more about these levers, Christian.
The what you're referring to is basically just every deal is an economic balancing act. It's got to be a win-win-win situation. It's got to work for the dentist, which is the tenant. It's got to work for the landlord, and it's got to work for the bank. There's certain parameters we just have to work inside of. And I love that what you said is that if you have money set aside, or if you get a little bit more from the bank, maybe focus that more on your build out, and then just work on getting your base rent lowered, and maybe getting a little bit more free rent. But you, like you said, I think it's really important for everybody to know out there, you can't have it all. We all know that. We know that from childhood. You can't have everything. It's got to actually work for the landlord as well, for them to maintain a nice little property. I don't let the landlords know that, nor do I throw that flavor out there, because I'm going where we just represent one side of the transaction, which is the doctors. But at the end of the day, we're educating our docs, saying, "Hey, listen, we gotta choose our battles, and each one of them, like what's their hot buttons? Okay, so you want to keep your rates down, or maybe you don't have as much TIs. In that case, the rent's going to go up a little bit because the landlord's going to be feeding in a little bit more in terms of the TIs. It's to be reflected in the rent. So a good broker will be able to navigate that and tell you when there's nothing left on the table, and leave no scraps behind.
Well,
go ahead, Mike.
Christian, here, give us a little bit more onto your why. Like, I see a lot of your stuff online. I see your videos. You guys spend a lot of time educating the market and just being that authority. And I've always been impressed with your firm, what you and your wonderful wife Kimberly do for the firm. So give us a little bit of what you guys can do for these docs, and also maybe a little bit of why Colorado, why Arizona. These are really good markets. We have viewers all over the country, and these two markets, Colorado and Arizona, are hot. And why is that? And how can you help them?
My why is just like I said, my why is for the doctors. I wanted to find somebody I could take care of and watch out for, and I love my docs. The Og Mandino. You guys probably read the Greatest Salesman in the World. I love that book. And basically the bottom line is that you just got to fall in love with the people that you're serving. Tony Robbins, we're big fans of Tony Robbins and what he's doing. We're actually platinum partners with that group. And it's all about finding people that you can just fall in love with, take care of them, continue to deliver more and more value than anybody else, and just continue to just help them as much as possible, because I've seen so many crazy situations, and it's sad when a doc gets locked into a 10-year lease with terms that suck. That's just the bottom line. And it was done by somebody who was just there to take a fee, and it's not about fees, and it's never been about fees for us. And I think that's why our business is really mushrooming, and because we actually do care about the docs, and it's our culture. I won't have a broker on board. We've had to get rid of several that you get in there and it's just commission breath. They get out. That's not what we're about. The money will come if you take care of your people.
Commission breath?
Commission breath, baby. And it stinks.
Breath. It's horrible.
It's got some stank, dude.
Yeah.
Well, Christian, I think that really personifies why you're doing so well, why you've always done really well now in your 18th year of doing this. And congratulations to that, to you and Kim. In my mind, this is what the industry needs. Someone that is putting the client first, not themselves. And you brought up a great thing there. You brought up, a book and mentorship and different outlets of Vision Quest, if you will. By the way, just because you're a real estate person or a consultant or an equipment salesperson, whatever it is, guess what? A dentist is a salesperson too. They have to build the same trust that we have to. And so these books that are mentioned by some of our partners in this, pick those books up because they're really powerful tools. And so I thank you for bringing that up. But more importantly, I thank you for being a friend, for being open and honest, and for, doing right by the industry. And I love you to death.
I love you guys too. You guys are awesome. And I'm super honored to be part of your programming and just thank you.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well done. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Okay. Thanks, homies.
Check out Startup Uncensored on Facebook and YouTube. Click like, subscribe, and interact with Michael and John. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another truth-filled episode of Startup Uncensored.